This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Winston, basically, I think this game here, you could tell me he threw 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions in the same game, and I wouldn't be fucking surprised.
I would play Jono over him this week.
Aussie?
I hope you're really, really shit at starts of the week this week. It'd be awesome.
I'll see how I go. I'm a bit rattled, but I'll figure it out.
Rattled is Taylor's thing.
Yeah, that sums out my season, I think.
NFL?
Hang on, let me unpick this for a second. You wish Dan Campbell was your son's dad.
Fantasy.
Ironically, no woman has ever been hurt by a Matty C. King.
There's nothing even ironic about it. It's just straight up facts. Hashtag facts.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Suck on my Chubba Hub? I don't know.
That's good enough. I was about to say, he did beat around the reach bush.
G'day, Aussie Gridiron fans. Australia's premier NFL fantasy football show is back. You're listening to the Aussie Gridiron Network, and this is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. It might be pretty obvious, but I am not Matty C. They call me Ian, and I am sitting in the host chair tonight, the comfy, luxurious leather chair that Matty usually presides over this podcast in, as Matty's come down with a touch of the sore throats after a massive choke in starts of the week last week. I'm not doing this alone tonight, though. With me tonight is the other half of the most famous duo in Australian fantasy football circles, a man who has allowed his wife a hall pass with Dan Campbell, even though she doesn't know it yet. Batman to Matty C's Robin, it's none other than Australia's finest fantasy analyst, Taylor Goodall.
Ian, everyone listening, I'm a non-lean drinking and eating machine. It's week 13, baby. Let's fucking go.
Oh, look out. What a pump up. Dan would be impressed, mate, I reckon.
I don't know. I basically, from about week 6, just started rhyming everything I say at the fucking start. And I'm like, how could I add extra rhyming to it? I used to do it in the old Astro League podcast days. And I thought, fuck it, let's bring it to the start of these shows. But I absolutely can't wait to get into it. Can't wait to actually do this with a well-respected host for once. That would be absolutely fantastic. But mate, we've got obviously another guest, someone who actually came on to the podcast early in the preseason and chatted quarterbacks with us. So absolutely great to have him on and Ben his ear about how the regular season's gone so far.
Yes, of course. With us tonight is a regular on the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show, someone who is also in a super competitive international fantasy league named the Juicy Prune Cup. He's a regular season beast in fantasy, which is why the world needs him. We do. To correct the standing and starts of the week this week. Please welcome Adam O'Grady. How you going, Ads?
Thank you, Ian. Feeling great, feeling good. Just coming off the back of a win over Taylor last week. So, yeah.
Right into it.
Yeah. I'm just happy that even though my team was outscored at the running back position, like
100th week in a row.
Oh, yeah, for the 100th week in a row, but like 51 to like 16, I somehow still won.
Oh, fantastic. You need to tell me, do you know the story of the name of the Juicy Prune Cup? Because I'm really fucking interested.
Literally, it was me and my mates when we were living up in Darwin. We were like just sitting on the balcony trying to figure out what the league name was going to be. And one of the boys just had like a jar of prunes sitting on the kitchen bench. So he went, Juicy Prunes, boys. And ever since then, it kind of stuck.
That is the most random way to pick a league name.
The best way, though. It's like names like that just come from absolutely nothing. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, they're much better than some of our league names, Tay.
Yeah, AGN league. AGN pre-draft league. It's got a real great ring to it.
Oh, it does have an amazing ring to it. I tried to push to rename at least one of the leagues we're in. I think it was I did actually rename it myself, the content creator one that was just the redraft one, because Manjot had it it was like a 6-barrel name that was just like a Australian fantasy content creator league, and I was just like, what is that? I'm like, dude, we need a name for this thing.
Well, yeah, because it was kind of just like guys we all sort of didn't know, but then we were like, let's change it to people that are in that or mostly outside of like Andy and a couple other guys, but mostly guys that are in that like group of fantasy, people that we have in that messenger group anyway. So it made sense, like change the name to something more to do with us, like instead of just like talking about it like everyone's a content creator, because not everyone is. Like, I don't even think I am, even though I'm on a podcast. I'm not exactly doing social media posts or anything like Manjot is. So it's just kind of like, let's just bring in a bunch of guys that are keen on fantasy and just rename it.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, you're a content creator these days. You can almost call yourself that.
Yeah, content creator of arse and dick jokes. That's basically what's going to be on my business card.
Absolutely. We didn't make any last night. And
there was a porn star joke that I'm sure went down real well on the podcast. But, that's just so you know it's an authentic Taylor performance.
Yeah. And, of course, we are talking about the GDAY GRIDIRON podcast, which Taylor joined me on for the reaction show, a weekly reaction show last night. So that was amazing. Yes, and I did giggle when you made that porn star joke. I did laugh because we don't shy away from the swearing, but we don't sort of lean into it as much as you do on this show. And as such, of course, every other time I've been on here with you and Matty, I don't know. I just seem to go off a wall for some reason.
We seem to drag everyone down into the mud. Like, people think they're going to, walk in the tuxedo and be all proper, but then in the end, they're just bogans, handing out bloody dicks and arse jokes at the end of it. There's just no way about getting out of it, mate. That's just how we roll here.
Yeah, that seems to be the way. All right. Usually around this time, if you guys have a new guest, you do 5 questions, but Ads has already been subjected to that absolute nonsense this year. Matty recapped us in a group earlier today on your answers. Some of them are interesting. The rest probably suck, Ads, so you probably need to do better at that anyway.
Well, for any woman out there, he never comes first. So, look,
that was probably the most classic line we've had apart from your CMC this season. So,
well, that could not have been more on the spot by CMC, and I didn't even know I was going to be on the pod doing that. So that was very much off the cusp.
Yeah. Of course, poor old As, you are a Rams fan too, which is
it hasn't been great.
No,
it's Super Bowl a couple of years ago. It's been real tough.
Yeah, that's at least we sold our soul for a Super Bowl, so can't be too upset.
Another
I mean, people have sold their soul for much less.
Yeah, sure.
Much less. If anyone can tell me where I can sell my soul, that'd be nice. There's a few things I'd like in my life right now, so just hit me up.
For the Aussie Gridiron Network, this is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
He's a Bear fan in the NFL, but still somehow he's a good bloke.
They've been kissed on the dick too long in that position. They're due a bit of pain.
Also, great to hear Kev saying stuff like, kissed on the dick. He's really fitting the podcast early.
Aussie?
Mate, I've had probably far too many close encounters in saltwater crocodile infested rivers than I would care to fucking remember, if I'm being honest.
NFL?
I'm a rugby front rower through and through. Taylor, I'm not built for fitness or speed.
Fantasy.
Fucking fitness burger in my mouth.
Well, that's going in a drop. All of that is going in a drop.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
And we've just been anally probed by the quarterback position since 85. So
Rex Grossman has a very fitting last name.
All right, we can move on to breakouts for this week then. So we'll just this show might be a bit more loose than people are used to. By the way, I got a basic rundown from Matty, and I listen to the show every week, but I'm not Matty C, so it's not going to be as.
It's one of your best qualities.
It's going to. Well, thank you, Tay. It's always nice to have someone suck up. Let's start with breakouts, boys. How about we start with Ads? And I know Matty started at the back end of the positions for breakouts in other weeks, and I like that because I'm a tight end man, both in real life and NFL football. So, Ads, tight end for the week for breakouts. You want to kick us off?
Well, he was sitting on my team last week, and he had a great one last week. But I'm going to back him in again this week. So, Jonnu Smith.
Oh, yes. What an absolute weapon.
We talked about him a bit last night, didn't we?
We did.
The target share that he's getting at the moment is phenomenal, and Tua just loves him anywhere near the in the red zone. So I don't know how you can go past him.
He's a wide receiver one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Waddle did have a pretty good game last week, but he has been absolutely phenomenal the last two, and he's the only thing that's holding my team together at the moment.
It's the glue.
Rough in fantasy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mate, when you have no running backs, you need your kicker, defense, and tight end to be scoring.
Absolutely, you do.
Yeah.
And you can always rely on the tight ends, it seems, at this end of the year.
Last 2 weeks, he's been targeted that much. Scored 3 touchdowns out of the last 2. I reckon against Green Bay, Miami are looking on the up. Give him another touchdown, another 80 yards.
Beautiful.
Ooh, 80 yards and a touch. That's great. I like that line. Tay, have you got a loose end for us?
I do, mate. I might just quickly recap how last week went just real fast.
I
had Herbert as my quarterback against the Ravens because I was 30th against quarterback, and it started awesome on the first fucking drive. He just rushes in a touchdown, and then everything just kind of went to shit. They just didn't really get anything going. Fucking Quinton Johnson realised he's got fucking dicks for him. Could catch a fucking... My goodness, send him to the fucking Chinese Football League. Holy fuck. That was unbelievable. So, yeah, not a great performance for that one. I then had Kareem Hunt against Carolina because I didn't really think that even if Pacheco came back, it was going to really impact him initially anyway. And against Carolina, who last against the running back position, wasn't a fantastic game. I think, 80-odd yards and just didn't really get involved too much, outside of that. I had him to get a touchdown, and I don't think he did. So, yeah, it wasn't the best call, but, he still sort of eked his way to an okay score. It just wasn't fantastic. AJ Brown was probably my best one. I had him, I think I said he was going to get a 40-yard touchdown, but he ended up with a touchdown nonetheless, 109 yards. That was one that I was pretty happy with. I felt like the Rams had been getting beat more in the air than on the ground recently, so I just sort of took the shot that this was going to be one of those games that Hurts was going to be able to air it out to him. Obviously, they got fucking torched on the ground as well anyway, so they basically were an equal opportunist offense. They basically tore the Rams apart everywhere, so it didn't really matter. And my tight end was Trey McBride. It was unbelievable. He hasn't got a receiving touchdown all fucking year, but he was tight end 3 going into the week. He's actually just getting awesome volume. Even though Kyle's been inconsistent, Trey McBride's been the one bit that has been consistent for him all year. He's basically only got a rushing touchdown, and he dove onto a fucking fumble into the end zone. So, that's the only 2 touchdowns he's got all year. But he was up against the Seahawks, and they were 18th against tight end, and yeah, he smashed it. It was over 10 receptions, over 100 yards, and he just PPR'd himself to a massive performance. So that was just my sort of quick rundown of what I did last week. At tight end this week, I'm going to sort of play on matchup here, and you and I brought this guy up last night a little bit, Ian, and I think it's a bit of a bounce-back game for him. I just don't think he was used last week. The matchup on paper wasn't fantastic anyway, but I want to take Cade Otton. Up against Carolina, who are last against the tight end position. I know they're probably fucking nearly last against almost everything anyway, but I just think this is going to be a get-right game for him. Like I said, I don't think Mike Evans takes away from what he does. Mike Evans stretches the field, whereas Otton's more of the safety blanket for Baker. Even though I do think like a Bucky Irving could run all over Carolina like he did last week with the Giants, I just still think this is a better matchup for Otton. I think he's going to be open all over the place in the middle. So I'm going to take him. I'm going to say that he has, 16 plus PPR points.
16 plus is pretty good for a tight end these days, mate.
Yeah, and I feel like sort of, even though he had that breakout run, I feel like after last week, people are probably starting to get a bit iffy on him. So I still feel like he's not like this guaranteed lock-in start anymore. So I just wanted people to feel like they should have a bit of more confidence back in him this week.
Fair enough. I'm going to go, look, how about since you recapped yours, I've got Matty's here from last week, so I might recap Matty's real quick. Matty had Tua at QB, who obviously bagged a bunch of points. We talked about that yesterday. Talked a little bit about Tua. Kareem Hunt, who does this go? Okay. He had Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Seattle, who was just terrible, not good at all. And likely with a TD guarantee, which was an absolute miss. Big time miss. So likely was not likely to score a TD, it would seem. My TE for this week, my tight end for this week is a guy that I've been fawning over for the last few weeks. I think he's going to slowly be the next big thing at Kansas, and that is the backup tight end to Kelsey, Noah Gray. He's been on fire. My boy. He has been on fire the last few weeks. 2 TDs apiece in games against Buffalo and, of course, the Panthers in a game that they should have smashed the Panthers in but didn't. And his second TD was actually a very influential one in getting to that 30-27 scoreline. Otherwise, Kansas City might have been in a lot of trouble. You know what? So I'm going Noah Gray for another big week, and they're up against the Raiders this week. So the Raiders have been poo everywhere on defense for a while, and no idea why, considering they have an amazing defense. It's like they just stopped showing up halfway through the season for some reason. So I expect Noah Gray to get involved because they probably won't use Kelsey a lot in this game because it doesn't seem to matter a lot for what's going on for the Chiefs right now. So Noah Gray, big game. I'm going to give him a TD guarantee, touchdown guarantee for Noah Gray this week.
Noah Gray to you is Dan Campbell to me. I feel like we'd both let them sleep with our missus easily and then give him a beer afterwards. That's just how it feels, mate. You absolutely fucking love that guy. I've never seen someone wax lyrical more in my life. It's brilliant. I love it.
You know how I love tight ends, mate. I've got weird fascinations
especially
with
backup tight ends.
Yeah, I just, it's not that I'm not a big Travis Kelce fan. I keep saying Jason for some reason. I did it a couple of weeks ago too. Not that I'm not a big Travis Kelce fan. I just think he's sort of getting towards the end. I think even Travis can feel that and see that. And he's not moving like he does. And Noah Gray looks like the next Travis Kelce, basically. They have picked the Kansas City Chiefs have a type at tight end, it would seem.
Absolutely. All right, mate, what's our next position?
Why don't we go to running back? Adam, what do you got for running back?
I know Taylor loves this guy, and he's had an absolute stunning last couple of weeks. Let's go with James Cook.
Yeah.
And I think just with how banged up San Fran are at the moment, Buffalo are going to control the game, and he's going to absolutely run amok on that team. He's been phenomenal his last 2 games out, scoring 15 and 7.5 and half PPR. And after a bye week, I just think Buffalo are going to just destroy San Fran. As a Rams fan, I'll be quite happy about it.
I can see him actually finishing the year even better than he started too, because it gets colder, and then all of a sudden with that Joe Brady offense, I think they're just going to run the ball even more. And especially against what you said, a banged up San Fran, I think they're going to lead, and I just think that's going to end up with so many rush attempts. And then the good thing with James Cook is he doesn't get game scripted out because he's a very good pass catcher as well. So there isn't really any opportunities where he's not going to be involved. It's just obviously touchdown variance with what goes to Josh Allen and what goes to him. But in the end, if he's getting good volume, it kind of doesn't matter some weeks anyway. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think this is an awesome matchup. San Fran used to be tough to run on, but they haven't been this year. They've been well below average at defending the running game this year. So I love it. I think they're going to lead, and I think it's going to be plenty of James Cook.
Awesome. Tate, while you get going, how about your running back?
Yeah, I did a little pairing here. I've done this before, and
you're not calling it not a stack. It's a pairing.
It's a pairing, a stack, or whatever you want to do here, mate. But I took a little stack of 2 players a couple of weeks ago, or it's actually about 4 weeks ago now, and I had them to combine for 4 touchdowns, and they got there in the first half. It was Binchan and David Montgomery, I believe, both to have to combine for 4. It didn't matter how they got there, and they both had 2 in the first half. It was insane. So I'm going to do a little something similar. I just really like the matchups of these guys, and so I've taken Jahmyr Gibbs up against the Bears, and a huge part of this is David Montgomery's a bit iffy. He's saying he's not too bad, but I just think if all of a sudden Monty's 10 or 20% lower than what he normally is, Gibbs is just going to get 70% of it, and to get that bump up with how good Gibbs is, even when he only gets 50%, I just think it could be insane, and the Bears are way more beatable on the ground than they are in the air. So I just think this could be a game where the Lions just smash the living shit out of the Bears, and the Gibbs is just running all over them all game, and they give Monty a rest. So I've paired him with Joe Mixon up against the Jags because they're second last against the running back position. And even though I brought this up a few weeks ago too, that even though it says that the Jags are beatable everywhere, I feel like teams can run on them so easily and they get in front of them that I kind of like taking the running back against them more than the, say, wide receiver or, say, the quarterback. So I'm going to take Mixon and Jahmyr Gibbs to not only combine for 4 touchdowns, but they're going to combine for 200 yards.
Did you say 4 touchdowns and 200 yards?
Yeah, so not 200 each, but like combined for 200 yards on the ground and 4 touchdowns.
Wow.
I reckon that's fair, especially with how bad CJ Stroud's been as of late. I think Mixon's going to run all over the Drags as well.
Mm.
The 200 probably isn't as bold as it seems. It's just because it's added on top of the 4 touchdowns. Obviously, the touchdown is a lot more harder to get. But I just thought, you know what, I'll just add a little spice on top of it. But yeah, I would actually be pretty surprised if these two don't combine for the 200 side of it.
I think the only caveat that I would add to that would be the Jahmyr Gibbs part with Monty as well. They seem to be sharing a lot of the backfield now at the Lions, because as we've talked about a lot previously in group chats and everywhere, is they're just playing around with teams once they get in front now. So they just seem to be sharing it around. You know, those two, I think it's the second time ever in the history of the NFL that the one team has had 2 running backs with 10 plus TDs each in a season, and they're only at week 12. It's just bonkers what they're doing. So that would be the only thing to me that I'd be going. I can see Joe Mixon getting a bunch of yards and maybe a TD or 2, but it's the Gibbs part that worries me in that taste. So that's a pretty brave call for a breakout. I love it.
That's why I brought up the Monty injury scare. Like, I think if they get in front, it's not going to be a split anymore. I think they're going to be like, we're in front now, let's just go with Gibbs. Like, I just don't think, why would you risk Monty if he's carrying an injury into this game in the second half? I just don't see why they would. So there's also the chance he doesn't play. It's still questionable. Like, if this is all Gibbs, like, he could fucking have 4 touchdowns and 200 yards by himself. Like, so I just think there's an opportunity there, because Gibbs is not going to get less than he normally gets, and he's the kind of guy that busts out for 100 yards even with the 50-50 split anyway. So I'm like, if he all of a sudden gets a 10 or 20% bump of what he normally gets, even if Monty's still going well, I just think there's an opportunity for him to have an enormous game here. And like I said, I just think you run on the Bears way more than you do pass. So and that's what the Lions love to do anyway behind that offensive line. So I think there's an opportunity for both of them again to have a good game. But I think Gibbs is the one that could have the huge breakout.
Absolutely. My running back for breakouts this week is actually a guy who did run all over the Bears last week, and that is Aaron Jones from the Vikings. It's a total homer call, but the Cardinals have been absolute poo against running backs most of the season, but especially through November, where they've just let teams just amass ridiculous amounts of yardage on the ground. The Bears actually put like 275 on the ground against them. So I'm banking on Aaron Jones having a massive game against the Cards this week at home as well in Minnesota. I'm thinking I'm going to go with some points, bit of fantasy point total here, Tay. I reckon 20-plus points for Aaron Jones this week. I think he's going to have that good a game.
I can't say anything against that. Like you said, Arizona. They've been a weird one, though. They've been an anomaly because their personnel is so much worse than the actual way they've defended this year. Like, I came into the season, they had the worst PFF-ranked defensive line and worst-ranked PFF secondary going into the season. So it could not have been worse, but I actually feel like they've been better than advertised, but they're still not good, like, by no means. But they actually seemed like they were going to be, like, historically bad on defense, but they haven't been that bad. But like you said, like, if the Vikings get in front, they're up 14-0 in this game, and Kyle is fucking just spraying it all over the place, then I just think there's an opportunity for Jones just to be running this ball in the whole second half in that dome with the Vikings. I don't think they're going to need to throw it much in the second half. So I'm with you. Like, Jones seems to be on a bit of a roll after last week. So, yeah, I like it.
I like it too. I'll like it even more if it even happens. I've got him in several leagues, and of course, it'll probably mean another win for the Vikings, which I will absolutely love. All right, let's go with our QBs. Tay, why don't you start us off with QB?
Yeah, so this week I've kind of looked at a game where I feel like the yards probably need to be in the air more so than on the ground in this specific matchup. And obviously it's a crazy thing to say considering how ridiculously good this guy's running back is, but based off like the way this defense is more of a pass funnel, I'm going to take Jalen Hurts against the Ravens because the Ravens are 29th against quarterback. And this is more because I just don't think, and like this could be horrendously wrong. I love Saquon. Like, I have been all over him all year. And like we just saw him fucking torch the Rams at 300 plus yards, 250 on the ground. I just think this Ravens defense, assuming it gets Roquan Smith back, that he's a massive part of the way they defend the run. But if he's there, I just think they're not going to be able to just hand it to Saquon and win this game on his back like they have in almost every other game. I think this has to be a Hurts game for them to win. I think they're going to obviously get pressured on the other side of the ball from the Ravens. I think they're going to want to win this one at home. And I just think they're going to struggle, obviously, against Lamar and Henry. So I don't think this is a game where they're just going to hand the ball to Barkley. I think Hurts is going to need to hit A.J. Brown. He's going to need to hit Devontae Smith if he's back. And he's going to have to do a lot himself. I'm going to say that Hurts does that. And I think they're actually a chance of causing an upset in Baltimore, but I think it's going to be more through Hurts this week than it is Saquon, which honestly is a bold call in itself. But I just think that the Ravens very much defend the running back's position very well as you can against Saquon anyway. So I'm going to say that Hurts, I'm going to say he's a top 2 QB on the week, and I'm going to say he has 26 plus points.
Awesome, mate. Top QB for Hurts. Sounds great. I agree with you. He's been playing amazing. Just quietly amazing, I think, that the Eagles have been. Even though they are where they are and their record stands like really ridiculously good, you're a 9-win team. I feel like they've just quietly gotten there, and Jalen Hurts this season as well. There's a lot that's changed, especially in his O-line without Jason Kelce. A lot changed in the way that they had to approach their games early on, and they had to do it a bit of the tough way, I suppose, than what they have in previous seasons early on. So I like that, mate. Top QB on the week. And
the quietly thing is exactly why I've taken a shot on him specifically in this matchup, because it's been all Saquon. Like, you haven't really needed Hurts in a lot of these games. That's why it's been a quiet season for him. He's still been pretty decent in fantasy, but he hasn't, blown the fucking doors off because he's just been handing off to Saquon. He's been fucking having 70-yarders and he's stolen the show. So this is why I just think this specific matchup with how good they defend the run compared to pass, I think this is the opportunity where Hurts actually has the better fantasy game than Saquon.
Absolutely. Ads, what do you got for QB for this week?
My start for QB this week would be, or breakout, let's go Baker Mayfield.
Let Ian just jerk off about that.
Absolutely love it.
He's been down he's only thrown 3 touchdown passes over his last 3 games, but he's playing against Carolina this week. And I think he's just going to be an angry man out there. And I reckon, let's say 300 yards with 3 touchdowns.
You sound like my betting line right now.
Yeah.
That's I've been on my best bets over the past, probably 6 weeks. I've taken Baker nearly every single week for 250 and a touchdown. I think I did 1 week where it's 250 and 2 touchdowns, and he still got that for me. So I was up in the ante for sure this week. There's a bit of foreskinning for the Saturday G'day Gridiron show. You know what, Ads? I totally agree with you because Baker was my breakout for this week as well.
Love it.
Stolen.
I heard 3 touchdowns, 300 yards, and 3 inches poking out of Ian's pants.
Yeah, pretty much. I was going to recap some numbers for you on Baker this.
Here we go.
I was going to try and make you guess who I was going for, Tay. Even though you would have been able to pick it, but
look at your background.
Yeah, 267 completed passes, 2,799 yards, 24 touchdowns, 239 fantasy points so far this season. 5th overall QB, 8 overall in scores, mate. Baker Mayfield. Who would have thought Baker Mayfield would be putting up those kind of numbers?
I brought it up on the fantasy pod a couple of weeks ago, and you obviously tried to take the advice in. I thought Mike Evans and kind of Baker by proxy were actual trade targets a couple of weeks ago. I thought if you could try and get, especially Evans, and it was probably pretty specific for me. I targeted Evans in leagues where I had a good record, and I knew that the person that had him was waiting out his injury, and I thought, all right, I'll try and offer them something that helps them win now if I took Evans on during his injury. And I was able to do it in about 3 leagues. I think I've got something like 7 shares of Mike Evans. I've got him all over the place because I think he's got league winner written all over him. I think people are forgetting how good those two were together last year. And the fact is they don't have Chris Godwin now, and but they've still got all these awesome passing matchups going forward. So I honestly think Mike Evans and Baker, honestly, as that stack, I think it's got league winning potential, sure.
Yeah, you know why, Tay? That's why I was going for the QB wide receiver stack this week in breakouts too.
Okay, so you've given us who your wide receiver is.
Oh, we're already into it. We're into wide receiver now, mate. So that's why I was going the stack. Mike Evans has only got 400 yards so far this season. He's 1,000-yard minimum for a season. So I reckon the Bucks, they're going to do the right thing by Mike Evans. And as you rightly said, without Chris Godwin out there, there's going to be a lot of targets for him. I think he's just going to come alive in the back end of this season as well. And I think it starts here against the Panthers. So I'm going to have him down for probably 120-plus yards this week. So the 1,000-yard season starts here for Mike Evans.
It's been amazing having the Mike Evans fucking T. Higgins stack in Astro, and they've both basically been injured for like more than half the year. So I've just been like rolling out fucking waiver wire fodder in a 16-team league and wide receiver. I know Adam's fucking not going to cry any tears for me given his fucking running back situation, but it's just been hilarious, some of the names I've fucking thrown out there. And then I didn't even really have a flex either, so it was basically what 3 receivers can I get off waivers in a 16-team league I could chug out there for like 4 weeks straight. It actually became like a fun game for me.
Yeah, I'll try playing that game with running backs.
Yeah, it's worse. It is so much worse. And
So much worse.
So much worse.
Because there's no options. Like it's like you don't have a game. It's like who the fuck do you have on your roster already? You have to play them.
I'm just happy. I'm happy when I don't score a 0.
Yeah.
Our AGN Superflex redraft is the first time I've done a 16-team league.
Yep.
And I have to admit, it has been absolute murder through the middle of the season where I went from a bucket of arseholes at running back to a bucket of arseholes at wide receiver. They just swapped. And, yeah, I mean, currently...
Never good everywhere.
And currently in that league for the past 3 to 4 weeks, I've been running 13-team personnel.
And that's a super flex league too. Like you need to play 2 quarterbacks as well in a 16-team league. It's so fun. It's the worst league.
Yeah,
it's like seriously, there's like 5 teams out there always trotting out like no second fucking quarterback. Like, and it's so hard. Like you think it's hard in Astro trying to find it, and we only have 4 bench spots, which makes it even harder in Astro, but. I think we only got 5 in this league too. Like it's real hard. And like you said, every time like there's even a sniff that someone's going to be playing quarterback or there's an injury, it's like this mad fucking scramble to get like this 3rd string quarterback just in case you've got a quarterback you can play. It's friggin' awesome.
The only thing I think that has truly saved me in that league so far is the whack-ards scoring that I put in for kickers just to see what would happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, just the fact that kickers are scoring like 15 to 20 points has saved me on some weeks because I'm just like, you pick the right kicker who's going to kick a whole bunch of 50-plus yard field goals and you smash the week. So it's been crazy. That league has been nuts. I traded someone early for Sam Darnold as my backup QB, and I have not regretted it one minute.
That's definitely not been one of your worst moves.
No, it's just my bench looks like absolute shit. They're all like 3 to 4 point guys right now. So if someone goes down, I'm done. So
half my bench is backup quarterbacks, just hoping they fucking play.
You can't play them anywhere but 2 slots.
No, just hoping. Like I've got 2 decent starters, but I'm just like, it's kind of really nice to have another quarterback. And I'm like, the players on waivers are so shit. I don't feel like I'm missing out by just running 3 quarterbacks on my bench because I just want one of them to be relevant at the end of the year. So I'm just like, fuck it, I'll leave them there until I need to pick someone up.
For the first time in a 16-team league, that the hardest part has been the waiver wire, but it's been the most fun, I think, because like everyone's suffering. So everyone's talking about it and just going, what the hell? Like, how are we doing this? And yeah, I think it's the league I saw the most trades in this year, which is
I've brought that up previously about Astro League. Like, I trade in that league. Well, not so much this year. I only did like 2 or 3 trades this year, but mostly I do more trading in that league because I feel like there's more opportunities to trade because, like we've said already, no one's good everywhere. So there's always like opportunities to try and like trade. People are fucked in certain areas, and like, I feel like it opens up opportunities in that league. Whereas you go to like a 10-teamer, and everyone loves their team. It's just like there's like no, and like there's plenty of guys on waivers just to plug in if you've got an injury, and it's just like it doesn't really give you the opportunity to trade much because no one really feels the need to. Like you can't really like talk to them and like get like get an idea of where they're at on a certain thing or. I don't know. I just find Astro it's a bit easier to trade, and just more so because it's a 16-team league, because people are needy in certain areas where they're not in like smaller leagues.
Yeah, 100%. All right, I've given you my wide receiver. Let's go. Let's give Ads first shot before you, Tate. Ads, who you got for wide receiver?
This is going to be a guy that hasn't really done much. Basically started the season extremely hot and hasn't done it. Hasn't done much basically since about week 4. But I think it's got an injury in their wide receiver core, and I'm gonna call Jaden Reed for Green Bay Packers. It's not the best matchup, but I think with the concussion to Romeo Dobbs, I think any of those targets that are like in the middle of the field or any that Jordan Love is looking for, that Dobbs was soaking up, that's all going straight back to Jaden Reed.
What an enigma Jaden Reed's been this year. Fuck me. I had a league where I drafted him and I didn't play him in week 1 and he went fucking ballistic. And then I'm like, shit, I have to play him every game now. And he's fuck off. And I'm like, I just missed him one game. Like, and me and Matty have a water bet on him where he said he wasn't going to be in the top like 35, and basically I won that water bet week 1. It was like he couldn't like do anything. He had to basically miss the rest of the season not to be in the top 35 because of that one game. But he really, like you said, he hasn't really come on. It's been odd. He's had a couple of games here and there where he's been like 80 or 90 yards. He's kind of turned him into this like big play or bust merchant. Like he's, I don't know, for a guy.
Not a lot of targets. Not a lot of targets sometimes.
And that's why I think it basically was since Romeo Dobbs came back into the lineup, he took all of those targets that Reed was getting. So he kind of like dropped down the order. And then, so now I think if Dobbs is going to miss time to concussion this week, I think Reed's a chance just to get an extra 5 targets into him. So if he's getting anywhere between 6 to 10 targets, I think that's where he gets that big playability.
Yeah,
and I reckon he could really go off.
Yeah, it's looking that way. Whenever he gets over that 4 to 5 target range, that's when his yards go through the roof. It's not like he just increases to 40 or 50 yards. He all of a sudden goes over 100.
One of those catches, probably 40 or 50 yards stealth. Like he's a huge big player.
Yeah, and if he stacks a TD on that as well, like your money after that. So good call, mate. Very good call for breakouts. Absolutely love it. Tay, want to round us out with a wide receiver?
Yep, it kind of goes against what I said about being able to run on the Jags. I've still taken another Texan, and it's just another guy. Like I brought up with Mike Evans that I, tried to target him in a multiple amount of leagues. I did the same with this guy, Nico Collins. He's another one that was sort of obviously on IR for a while and then missed an extra game. So he was out for 5 weeks, yet he was still wide receiver 18 on the year, even though he'd missed 5 games. It's just absurd. I think he is just an unbelievable talent. He is one of these guys that I went into the preseason thinking I wasn't sure exactly how this wide receiver situation was going to play out for the Texans. I wasn't sure if it was Diggs. I wasn't sure if it was Tank Dell, even though he doesn't have any hands. I didn't know if it was fucking Nico, but I watched him once. I watched one game of Nico and I was convinced. I said, my preseason takes are wrong and I'm fucking going after this guy in every league I can. And then by that time I did, he fucking got injured. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to wait till he's a couple of weeks out from coming back and I'm going to target him. And luckily enough, there was a couple of weeks I was able to get that done. And I just think he's ready. He's only getting healthier, obviously, off that injury. I think his connection with CJ Stroud's only going to get stronger. And I think in this game, even though I think they're going to lead big at halftime and it's going to be probably all mixed in the second half, I still think Nico Collins is going to have a massive game. And So what I've actually done is I've almost put I put a second guy, but it's got a bit of a contingency plan on it. So I've gone Nico Collins, but I've also said that if Trevor Lawrence is back, I like Brian Thomas too in the same game. And that's because the Texans are 25th against wide receiver, and I think they're going to have to pass a shitload. I don't really want him if it's fucking Mac Jones or CJ Beathard or something. So I just put it as a bit of a thing. And I was like, a bit of a same game multi. I said that Nico Collins and Brian Thomas, if Lawrence plays, I said they both have 100 yards and they both have a touchdown.
Oh, that's good. And I agree with you. If Trev's back, I think he's training to be back.
He's practiced already the first couple of limited, but he's back practicing. So I'm thinking, I just feel like if they wanted to rule him out, they would have just ruled him out. They would have just said he's out for the season. Their season's fucked anyway. I'd be surprised if they were getting him back into training and then all of a sudden pulled him out.
Yeah. So it's looking good to have Trev back.
I don't think Trev's this amazing passer of the ball or this, freak of nature the way he's playing, but he's just so much better than his backups. It's kind of like the fucking Dolphins situation. It's like the drop down to the guys behind him is just insane. And you saw it with Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas has had just 2 games of just utter filth being thrown at him, and he's still wide receiver 12 of the season. He's an absolute freak talent. I was so stoked I got him in a couple of dynasties because I think he's going to be just one of these guys that just keeps getting better and better each year.
Wonderful, mate. All right, let's quickly recap our breakouts. Adam took Baker Mayfield at QB with 300 yards and 3 TD guarantee going on there. He took James Cook, captain, at running back. Jaden Reed, the Packer, at wide receiver. Jonnu Smith, none other than Jonnu Smith, at tight end for 80+ and a TD. I took Baker with the wide receiver stack in Mike Evans and 120 plus yards for Evans. Aaron Jones at running back for 20+ PPR points. Noah Gray, who I think is going to have another breakout game for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Ian's boyfriend.
Yep. Tay took Jalen Hurts versus the Ravens. Jahmyr Gibbs and Joe Mixon combined for 200 yards and 4 TDs as a combo. Nico Collins and Brian Thomas, if Trevor's back, for both 100 yards and a TD. And, of course, our old mates, we got Buccaneers players everywhere here. Kate Otten at tight end for 16+ PPR points. They're our breakouts for this week, players who we think are going to have some big games around the league. And especially...
We're fucking good analysts. They're all going to hit.
I'll tell you what, if they do, I might end up with a reputation here.
Matty C won't be invited back.
That's probably his dream, to be honest. He wouldn't have to deal with you anymore, you jabroni.
You're not wrong. Although you would have to, so I don't know if that's a win for you.
That is true. I might get my dream of an actual podcast studio rather than sit in a dusty, hot garage.
Mate. We've all got problems.
I know. Oh, well, I don't have any cockroaches attacking me tonight, so we're all right so far.
99 problems, but my car is one.
We're at that time of the Friday episode, and it's that time where Taylor gets the floor to himself to just wax lyrical about some players that he likes and talk some shit. So it's time for Taylor Talk.
TALOR. Taylor Talk time. Hot diggity dog.
Oh, thanks for the lead-in, Ian. I feel like it's always funny when you say, this is time for Taylor's, chance to talk shit. Like, I haven't been talking shit the entire episode, but...
that is true.
It's good to give me the dance floor. I probably won't do too many break dance moves because I'll probably fucking snap the floorboards, but, mate, we'll go on to exactly what I did last week first up. So, I took... Mate, have we talked enough fucking Buccaneers tonight? I took Baker up against the Giants.
Never.
It was 24th against the quarterback position. I had him down as 47% started before the bye, so I thought he sort of fit this segment still. It actually wasn't a fantastic fantasy game for him. He didn't actually throw any touchdowns. He threw a lot of yards, but he got his rushing touchdown, but just didn't quite get the numbers I was hoping for in this Giants game because obviously a lot of Bucky Irving, just a lot of the running backs in general. He just didn't have to do much, and sometimes that happens against the Giants, so it's obviously a bit of... You're thinking Giants is a good matchup sometimes, but sometimes they kind of bring you down to their level. So, yeah, obviously that was just one of those moments. But Baker, in real life, played fucking awesome, but it wasn't obviously a hit in fantasy. And at running back, I just decided to take a real deep shot. I wanted to take someone that basically no one was starting, and it was a bit of a just taking on what I thought the defense was going to give this team. So I took Jerome Ford against the Steelers, who are 11th against running back. So it wasn't actually a good matchup on paper. He was only like 8% started or something. So I was really going deep in the bag here. I just really thought that the Steelers were going to be able to stifle Nick Chubb, and it wasn't going to be like a great rushing game for him, and they would need to pass. But because of the snow and everything, obviously, and the way Cleveland played, it just went complete opposite of what I was hoping for with this pick. Obviously, Nick Chubb basically was able to run the ball a lot because they were leading most of the game, which was weird. And then obviously when it snowed, it basically took out any of the passing game, which is what I needed for Ford. So, yeah, it just didn't obviously end up great. But honestly, I'm not going to sort of hate on myself too much considering I took on a guy that's fucking 8% started. So I then took Juan Jennings, which obviously at that point I didn't fucking know that Brock Purdy wasn't playing. So this has really gone great for me so far. Because the Packers fucking 10th against wide receiver, I just thought obviously he was taking over in the wide receiver core. But yeah, again, when you obviously have fucking Brandon Allen come in, it's never going to work out great. He still was, 350 odd or something, which was, horrendous, but it just wasn't what I was looking for here. So I think obviously better days are ahead for him with Brock Purdy hopefully coming back. And then I took Dallas Goedert. I knew that Devontae Smith probably wasn't going to play, and the Rams 26 against tight end. Again, it wasn't a fantastic game because basically all the passing went to A.J. Brown. And they didn't obviously have to pass a shitload because they obviously had Saquon's just fucking tearing the Rams' rush defense a new a-hole. So they just didn't need to pass a lot to got it. So, again, it wasn't really a hit. So I've had some pretty good Taylor talks this year. What's actually a funny correlation, and we'll get to it starts of the week, is I've actually nailed a lot of these Taylor talks and then fucking sucked ass in starts of the week. And I've wondered, should I be actually holding back in Taylor talk and fucking picking better players at starts of the week? And this is what the opposite, where I went awesome in starts of the week and shitty ass in Taylor talk. So we'll see how we go this week.
Yeah, well, mate, I don't think you should be holding back in Taylor talk because it's making you seem like a genius, right? Starts might have a trophy, but this is what pays the bills.
Exactly, mate. This is what everyone's cheering for. But so let's hope no one took any of my advice last week in Taylor talk. That would be wonderful. So hopefully the connection didn't work last week.
You got to lose some eventually, mate. That's why Dan Orlovsky always sucked.
Got to build up. All right, so this week, I do actually have a stack, so I might not go the conventional way in talking about it. So I've got a quarterback tight end stack this week, and this is a team that hasn't looked great all year. They've brought their rookie in, and then he's had some on and off games, and I just think this is a pretty decent matchup for him here. I've got the Drake May and fucking Hunter Henry stack here. So Drake May up against Indy, who are 18th against quarterback, and he's only 16% started. And Henry up against the Colts, who are 27th against tight end, and he's 34% started. I just still really like what Drake May's doing. Obviously struggled against Miami for a lot of the game last week, but he obviously showed that he can obviously get things done, obviously, at least in the fourth quarter. There were still signs that there's a pretty good quarterback in there, and I just don't trust this Colts defense at all. They get beaten on the ground. They don't seem great at sort of defending anywhere wonderfully. And, yeah, I just feel like this game could actually have some points in it more so than anyone's really thinking. So I think this is a sort of a get-right game for Drake May. And then, obviously, he targets Hunter Henry a lot in the red zone as well. So I think Hunter Henry, I'm giving a touchdown guarantee. I don't really do lines or actually have to do that in Taylor Talk, but I thought, fuck it, I'm going to give him a touchdown guarantee anyway. And like I said, I just think Drake May's in for a lot better performance than a lot of people are probably thinking this week. So I'm going to go to running back, and this guy probably is teetering with being over 50% started, but I don't really have an exact number that I stay under in this segment. It's not exactly like starts of the week. So I just wanted to bring this guy up again because I talked about him a lot last week, and I just think moving forward he should be started in almost every league. If you've got this guy, you've got to start him. It's Bucky Irving against the Panthers, who are last against running back. You just saw last week, not only is he involved in the rush game, like he's basically their starter in terms of the run game now, but he is awesome in the passing game. It's not like Rashad White just gets everything in the passing game. Bucky Irving gets involved too. 6 for 64. He had a touchdown on the ground, 80-odd yards on the ground. Like, he just dominated this Giants team. And I just think that could be what happens in a lot of these games. They've got good matchups moving forward. Like I said, Carolina were last against the running back position. So I just think it's more like, happy days, flowery meadows, if you want to say it, for Bucky Irving. I think he's going to have a massive win. So I'll quickly go to my wide receiver here, and you'll like this one, fucking Ian. It's a guy that I'll even say I kind of read him off myself, and then you watched him absolutely fucking tear this Bears team a new arsehole. It's Jordan Addison, who's up the Cardinals. They're 18th against the wide receiver position. He's still only being started in 40% of leagues. I do expect that to go up after last week, but I think there's probably still an iffiness factor to him because of the sort of on and off way he's gone about things. But I don't know. I just felt like that was a bit of a breakout that he needed last week. Obviously, you're not going to see Justin Jefferson fucking get held to 20-odd yards or 7 before overtime very often. But I just think that Addison at least showed he can be that alpha, and that's what we've been needing to see. I don't think he really had a great start to the season, obviously, with the driving charge. So I just think he's been kind of off. He's had injury concerns as well. So I just think that he's getting more acclimated into this team. And you're really going to see it get completely honed in on, say, Hawkinson, Jefferson, and him. And I just think there's going to be enough yards in this game to go around. And I think Addison's a very good start again. He's always a chance at a touchdown. So that was nice and quick. That's my Taylor talk.
Wow, that's a quick Taylor talk for this week. Look out. Everything seems to be quick this week. I don't know. Are we just shooting too early here? Or what's going on?
Oh, mate, I asked my wife, I shoot too early, too quickly all the time. But, look, I actually felt like we talked a fair bit on our breakouts and stuff. So, look, I was pretty happy with the episode.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it too, Tay. Absolutely.
A good hour.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. I'm not used to that talking on this show. I'm used to like 2 a.m. finishes. Up all night. As if I'm like 18 and I'm out at the clubs again.
Ian out at the clubs. There's your visual.
There wasn't much of a visual, trust me. All right, it's been good. You're going to come back for starts of the week, surely. We've got to try and kick this thing off again for World and at least come home with a wet sail.
Yeah, of course. No dramas.
Yeah, good. Righto. So we'll get all the formalities out of the way. Of course, if you want to find out anything about the Aussie Gridiron Network, you can find out everything at our mothership. That's what Matty and I have been calling our mothership, the Linktree /Aussie Gridiron Network. There you will find links to every episode ever of this show, the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show, as well as my show, GDAY GRIDIRON. You'll find links to Manjot's Pastry Press NFL on Instagram and, of course, his YouTube page where he posts Aussie Gridiron Today, a look into local gridiron leagues with both Manjot and Matty C. You can find all that there at that link tree. You can also find links to our merch store with some amazing merchandise from over the years for Aussie NFL Fantasy. It's come up to Christmas time. How about you get in there, buy your friends, your league mates, maybe even some of your kids and your family some awesome AGN merch. We've got some fun designs for your friends and your mum, your dad. Why not get your mum a cock slap shirt for Christmas?
Something sweeter.
Yeah, who wouldn't want one? And there is some kids stuff in there, some kids-friendly stuff from GDAY GRIDIRON with some pretty cool cartoon designs of Australian animals as NFL position players. So jump in there, check all that out. You find all those links there. And until the Sunday starts of the week show, I guess it's, what do we say here, Tay? Hooroo?
Hooroo, guys. Ian Fondle's Baker's Balls.
Only on Sundays.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
I'm a non-lean, drinking and eating machine. It's week 13, baby. Let's fucking go.
This show might be a bit more loose than people are used to, by the way.
So that was very much off the cusp.
Aussie?
Matty's come down with a touch of the sore throats after a massive choke in starts of the week last week.
Just coming off the back of a win over Taylor last week. So
yeah, I know. It's amazing.
NFL.
There was a porn star joke that I'm sure went down real well on the podcast.
And I like that because I'm a tight end man, both in real life and NFL football.
Fantasy.
My goodness, send him to the fucking Chinese football league.
There's a bit of foreskinning for the Saturday GDAY GRIDIRON show.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
I'm not Matty C, so it's not going to be as...
It's one of your best qualities.